All right. Hello, everyone. Today we are doing lesson 58. Excuse me. I've got a froggy in my throat. A froggy in my throat. I used to say that with my son. I have a froggy in my throat. And he used to crack up laughing. Because my voice would get all croaky and I'd be like, ribbit, 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 ribbit. And he used to crack jokes at the sounds I would make when I would get a cold, and I was all snuffly, how I would start sounding like Goofy. And yet when he would sneeze, he would sound like Daffy Duck. Or Donald Duck.
Donald Duck, yeah.
And it would crack him up because he'd hear himself and it would just make him get a giggle fit. And it would make everybody else laugh too. Yeah. All right, let's begin. Today we got lesson 58, review of lessons 36 through 40. And number 1 is lesson 36. My holiness envelops everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. Seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can picture only the thoughts I hold about myself. And what that's talking about, folks, is when you recognize that you are sinless, you are guiltless, that it was just a belief you were holding forth as being true because it was taught to you, because somebody else decided to hand that label to you. When you start seeing the truth about yourself, you then start to see the world around you differently. And you start seeing the truth about the world around you differently. And you can only see the world as you see yourself, which is pure and innocent. You see your brothers as being fearful, and you understand their pain and their suffering and their fear because you've been there yourself. So you can empathize and have compassion for them and where they're at on their journey. They haven't reached that point yet to look within them at the truth. In those moments, you are the light, you are the truth. Alex?
My holiness blesses the world. The perception of my holiness does not bless me alone. Everyone and everything I see in its light shares in the joy it brings to me. There is nothing that is apart from this joy, because there is nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see.
And it's just like I was stating before. You know, something Alex and I have both recognized is when we go out in the world now that our vision has been being changed, that we will walk into a place of business that is completely dead, empty, no one else in there. And within minutes, the place is jam-packed full. And they're going, oh my God, we haven't been this busy in months. And it's like everyone recognizes the light around us, and people will stop and start conversations with us for no reason. They will always have their gazes coming to us and no understanding as to why. And it matters not if I'm dressed like this or if I'm in a pair of sweats and a t-shirt. It matters not if Alex is in his business clothes or jeans and a t-shirt. People want to open up and just bare their souls to us. And I guess they recognize that we won't judge them. We've been through so much ourselves that we are getting to a point where we don't want to judge.
Because we know that to judge another is to judge ourselves.
Yeah. And when we judge another and their situation is something that they're going through, we have to experience it ourselves. Alex found that out firsthand. I found it out firsthand. It's not fun. It's not pretty. I used to judge people that I saw in wheelchairs or walking with canes and walkers that were overweight. And then I became one through no fault of my own. And it made me realize that sometimes shit happens to all of us. Through no fault of our own, things happen. We experience different things. It's all in how we choose to perceive it. In many ways, it was a way for me to be slowed down on my rampant search for God and the truth. You know, I had talked about that before with Alex, that with you all, that Alex and I had been having a talk about guardian angels prior to my first motorcycle accident, and about whether or not they existed. He calls it a conversation, I call it a debate. But the point is that when I had that accident, I heard a voice that told me to close my eyes and relax. When I said, oh God, I'm not going to make it. What do I do now? When I realized that my brakes had failed, my throttle was stuck, and I was about ready to be decapitated. I was about ready to go through a barbed wire fence and hit a telephone pole. And instead I found myself being tossed from the bike, plucked up and off of it. I had closed my eyes and I had relaxed my body. There was no reason for me to be thrown. And yet I was. And from that moment on, I knew that there was guardian angels. That voice I heard let me know that there are guardian angels. And they are always with us. And as we come out and are the light of the world around us, as we speak our truth to all who come up and interact with us, we share that holiness with them, share that light of truth, and they become just as holy as we are, because that's how we see them. All right, going to move on now to 3. Lesson 38 says, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is unlimited in its power to heal because it is unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from except illusions? And what are all illusions except false ideas about myself? My holiness undoes them all by asserting the truth about me. In the presence of my holiness, which I share with God Himself, all idols vanish. And that, folks, is talking about how we don't put up any false fronts to anyone anymore for any reason. We're completely authentic and true to ourselves and true to who and what it is we see our brothers as. We don't treat the beggar on the street any differently than we do some vice president in some company. We wouldn't treat the busboy or the waitress at a restaurant any different than we would the Pope or the President of the United States. It matters not. And it's asserting the truth of who we are always, being authentic in who we are, that draws others to our light. Alex?
My holiness is my salvation. Since my holiness saves me from all guilt, recognizing my holiness is recognizing my salvation. It is also recognizing the salvation of the world. Once I have accepted my holiness, nothing can make me afraid. And because I am unafraid, everyone must share in my understanding, which is the gift of God to me and to the world. Now, for me, I find that to be very powerful, very moving, especially when I apply it to the idea of the all is the one and the one is the all. And especially if I look at that idea, like if I heal my own mind and I am one with everything else, then I don't even have to do anything to change the world. That just by accepting my own holiness, I shift to a world of holiness, where my brothers understand that we are all holy. Now, of course, this doesn't happen instantaneously. This is a process. But to me, this is a message. This is a message from God that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and that heaven on earth is assured.
Okay, give me just a second, because I was trying to hear you and understand you, and I couldn't understand a word. I could see your mouth moving and hear tones and sounds, but not the words. And so I'm trying to see if I can't read it to understand what's being said.
Go ahead.
Sometimes, folks, Holy Spirit blocks me from hearing something.
And sometimes when she has to reread it, I just cut it out of the video. So it may look like 2 seconds goes by, but it's a lot longer than that.
Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
He's getting good at this stuff. Okay, I'm getting it. So what I'm being shown with this, folks, is in my own experiences, as I have looked at these things that I was feeling shame and guilt and fear about, the experiences I had as a child of being raped and molested, of being beaten on when I try to talk about those things. And as I accepted the truth about those things, I also accepted the truth about what it was that was being done to me. And that they were simply repeating a pattern and so forth. And when I became unafraid to talk about it and to recognize the truth of all of it, I can do no more but share that understanding with everyone around me, so they can see the truth of it themselves, which is why he has me explaining how it is everything's been connected. And the truth of how people project out what they are taught to believe is true. And those types of things. And so when I recognized that I had nothing to feel guilt or shame or fear about anymore, in recognizing that I had done nothing wrong, and that I was absolutely worthy. That was my atonement. That was my salvation. And when I accepted my holiness, how pure and innocent I truly am, then it made it so that I was no longer afraid. I was no longer afraid to be me, to dress in what appeals to me, no longer afraid to express my sexuality and my sensuality with my husband, whether I'm in public or not. To be able to walk up to my husband and say, "Hey, handsome, give me a kiss," and not feel shamed because of it. And it's that kind of stuff that I learned to let go of, those judgments of other people and how they're going to view me. And it's in sharing these kinds of understandings that helps you to move past those kinds of beliefs yourself. Alex, you've been reaching that kind of understanding yourself, haven't you?
What kind of understanding are you referring to?
Of letting go of the belief in other people's judgments of you. And recognizing it as them projecting out what they believe about themselves.
Well, yes, I'm recognizing that people are simply misperceiving, and that other people do not necessarily have a better view of me, a better picture of me. Their view can be tainted by their judgments.
Yeah, their own beliefs.
And so when someone says something that seems to be about me with judgment behind it, I really look at it, because at the same time I want to be humble, and I want to know if, I don't want to say doing something wrong, but I do want to know if something I'm doing is being perceived to be coming across in a certain way. Like, somebody said something about me preaching, and with a negative connotation about it.
Which is the same thing that they would do to me back before the Healing with Sharing group was handed over to us.
And so I looked at the definition of preaching and the definition of the negative connotation of preaching, because that's what they were using. And I didn't see that anything I was saying or doing met that negative connotation. That it didn't fit. And so then I asked the person, could this be your misperception of me? And it turned out it was actually my misperception of what they were saying originally. They weren't saying you're preaching. They were saying, when somebody uses the word "your," like when posting on Facebook, it comes across as preaching. So I did have a misperception. I just didn't know where it was.
Well, I don't see how that could be considered that. And it's interesting because what I get told a lot of the times when I look at these things, do you remember when, who was it? Debbie G. Back before we changed the name to Healing to Sharing.
Deborah Gary.
Yeah. I was trying to leave her last name out.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't like dropping name bombs.
I can always cut it out.
Doesn't matter. I have nothing to hide. But there was Triple D, there was Teddy and all of them. Maureen Brown. And they kept going on and on and on about how I was wrong and everything. And they started calling me a Pentecostal preacher.
Yeah, I remember that. I think Brooke started that one.
Yeah, Brooke Banwer. And Clinton O'Baxley and all of them. They just started on that bandwagon. And I remember Teddy Poppy trying to get on this thing about this commentary or whatnot, and Holy Spirit just came through me and was channeling through me and was using things that only Teddy would understand.
Like song lyrics.
Song lyrics, yeah. and had me writing out stuff that just was like, whoa. And finally, Teddy was like, oh my God. And he hasn't talked to me since. Because he realized at that point that it was true, that it was Holy Spirit speaking through me. And that I had my guide. And from that moment on, it's like he shut up and he wouldn't say 2 words to me. And each time that I've spoken the truth like that to anyone and everyone that were my detractors, they have backed off and not said 2 words to me afterwards. Because anytime I speak the absolute truth about what I'm being shown about them and what's happening, they can't deny it. It is the truth. And I have no fear of standing up to everyone and anyone about everything and anything, because I have nothing to be ashamed of and nothing to be afraid of anymore. Nothing to feel any shame or guilt about. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it when we share like that.
I do too.
It's beautiful. All right, I'm going to move on to the last one, which is number 5, lesson 40, which is, I am blessed as a son of God. Herein lies my claim to all good and only good. I am blessed as a son of God. All good things are mine because God intended them for me. I cannot suffer any loss or deprivation or pain because of who I am. My Father supports me, protects me, and directs me in all things. His care for me is infinite and is with me forever. I am eternally blessed as his son. And in all things, folks, this is what this is talking about, is that when we give over our faith and trust in him, and stop looking to our ego selves to be our saviors, that we are provided for. You know, things are very tight for my husband and I, but we are being provided for. Even when it doesn't feel like we are, we still are being provided for. We have food in our refrigerator, a roof over our head, and we do still have money coming in.
You know, we have what we need, not necessarily what I
we
want.
want. Yeah.
And so I'm actually getting to a point where I'm actually okay with that, because the feeling I'm getting is that God and Holy Spirit, they know what gets me to my destination the fastest, the soonest. And they know what would just be a distraction to me. And if getting this other camera equipment would have just been a distraction, if it wouldn't serve Holy Spirit and God in the best way possible, then I wouldn't want to have it anyways.
Exactly.
So, although I want the camera equipment, and I know it would make my life easier and I could do higher quality video recordings, I really have no idea what the plan is for me. I don't know if we're going to do a whole year's worth of video recordings. I don't know what anything is for.
Yeah.
But I do have faith that every day is building more and more, that everything is for our best interest. Everything is for our good. There is another thing, though, that came up, and that because we are eternal beings, there's a little bit of play going on. There's a little bit of dragging out of time going on, where it's like, you'll get there eventually. Let's zig and zag, and then you can experience this and that, and then we'll get there eventually.
You know, something that I'm being shown is that these videos can be shown and used as a teaching device to help others learn the truth of who they are. And not just for adults, but for children, even with the profanity in it, even with the graphic content of the sharing. It gives an understanding and a perspective, because many people do go through these things. And it gives a psychological understanding and basis and undertone for the conditioning that happens throughout the world and through humanity. So that when we do step out into the world and extend to our brothers that have gone through these things, we can help them to heal as I have been healed, as many of you are being healed. When you share forth those types of things, it makes it so that others can be healed as well. I think that I want to aim for trying to do a Ustream thing next Saturday.
Ustream or YouTube, one or the other or both.
Yeah, where we do like a live casting, reading the lesson for the day.
Well, this is this Saturday's lesson, so you're wanting to do one next Saturday?
Actually, could we do one? We tend to film these the day before.
Yeah, so we'd have to do it the day of, and the thing about it is people need to know about it. We could do it just for practice. I mean, if we're going to do it tomorrow, we could just post about it. Hey, in an hour we're doing a Ustream, or in 8 hours or whatever, and then we could do it for practice.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe we can put it together.
Yeah, since it'll be a weekend and stuff, we can see what happens. But that is something that's been playing in the back of our minds, is trying to get up a way to have a dialogue with folks, so we can all sit here and
have some live interaction.
People
can ask questions
and ask for more clarity of what's happening and what we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing that we are going to try and work on in between now and then is getting up some buttons up on our screens for subscribing and donations and things of that nature. Subscribing to our YouTube website and channel, yeah. And becoming part of the discussion, sharing your experiences and how you have been shown the truth through the lessons that you've experienced. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us today. This was Lesson 58's review of Lessons 36 through 40, beginning with My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining Alex and I. Thank you for joining us and all of our critters. My name's Sabrina Reyenga.
And I am Alex Reyenga.
With Stubby on his lap.
I don't think you can see. Well, you can in that one, but
and he's got Stubby over there, and we got Thor on the couch sleeping. We had Chance running through here earlier, and yesterday we had Willow up on your lap.
Was it Willow? Or was it Spaz? I think it was Spaz.
No, it was Willow and then Spaz.
Okay.
Willow was up on the arm and you were petting him as you were talking. All right, you all have a good evening, good morning, good day. And we will see you in the next video. Hugs, love, and light. And I'm looking up at the screen up that way, by the way. Hugs, love, light, and blessing to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.